So today we're gonna go ahead and go over individualized rest times. I think rest is probably the most misunderstood variable for most people whenever they are implementing any kind of training program. And that's because there's just a lot of misconception out there and a lot of bad information out there as well. But for most hypertrophic outcomes, what we're looking for is the appropriate amount of rest for whatever your goal is in the moment, or for whatever you need to recover in order to perform the best for your next set. There are going to be times whenever we intentionally reduce our rest periods. Maybe we're in a metabolic phase, maybe we're doing some kind of like circuit training or high intensity interval training just to get a higher heart rate or more caloric burn. But for the majority of people, for the majority of the time, our goal is going to be overloading over a longer period, a medium-term, long-term time frame. And that is more conducive towards resting and recovering as long as you need to perform at your best for your next set. So what are some subjective indicators to look for here? So a couple of things. First thing is your respiration rate. So your respiration rate is how hard you are breathing in between your sets. So if you do a set of squats, like 8 to 12 rep range, you're gonna be breathing really hard after that set. So you might need a little bit longer recovery to let your breathing return back down to baseline. So another subjective indicator here would be like your heart rate. So very much like your breathing, if your heart rate is elevated and it hasn't come back down yet, maybe take a little bit longer before you start your next set so that you're fully recovered and your focus is there. And lastly, another really, really good subjective indicator that you might need a little bit longer rest is if your brain is all over the place, if your focus is all over the place, if you're wandering all over, you can't really get set on your next performance, your next set. If you're not there with it mentally and psychologically, your chance of injury, your risk of injury is going to be much higher, and your ability to actually perform and exert maximal output is gonna be very, very limited. So you wanna make sure that all of these things are aligned so that you can actually perform at your best for your next set. And again, there are gonna be times whenever our intent is gonna be a little bit different. Maybe, we are during a metabolic phase and we have very intentional rest periods and we're keeping everything very fast paced. We're trying to keep our heart rate up, but the majority of the time, focus more towards resting as long as you need to. And this is also a very individual thing. A smaller female might need 60-second rest period before being ready to go. Larger male who is much stronger, moving a lot more load, they might need 4, 5, 10 minutes, sometimes in some cases, before they're ready to go. And if you're this type of person who needs a really, really long rest period, maybe think about incorporating some kind of GPP training, which is general preparedness training, into your programming, because that will actually set you up with a better foundation for which to incorporate more metabolic, more hypertrophic work. So you have more work capacity, better hypertrophic outcomes, more volume tolerance. So there's a lot of different layers here, but in general, adjust according to your own individual circumstances and your own specifications. If you need more rest, take more rest, understand what your intents are, what phase of training you're in, and modify accordingly.